Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hi, I'm Jason, with Jason Pollock. I am not Jason. Join Jason and Justin back in the green room as they talk with some of their favorite folks from the entertainment industry. And now, the man you haven't been waiting for, Jason Pollock!
Hey, Justin, I was mesmerized by the close-up of my eyes just then. That was fantastic.
It was hypnotic.
How you doing, Justin? You want to listen? We got a big show ahead of us, but before we do that, you just redid your website. You want to give it a plug?
I did, yeah. I'm excited about it. Feel free to go to justingonzaleztenor.com, and that way you can see all the stuff that I did. I just redid my bio with some spots of. You'll be able to see some of the venues that I've performed at, get to check out some of the folks that I've performed with, some of the masterworks I've been a soloist of. There's a couple of older videos of stuff that I've done up there, but you can enjoy those videos. Yeah, again, just redid some bios and got it looking nice and clean. So, justingonzaleztenor.com.
Excellent. Be sure to check that out and go see him live because I was blown away by your clean show. And last weekend, it was the two of us and a couple other comics, and you still blew me away out of the water.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a fun show coming up this weekend that I'll plug later on in the show. But yeah, we've got a great show today. We
do. We actually do. I want to apologize up front because I've come down with this awful cough that I might be muting myself frequently, which, Justin, thank God I have you to carry me through this.
Jason's been dealing with this because, those in the kind of Philadelphia metropolitan area know that we've gone through this wide temperature swing, and it's kind of like reignited all of the pollen. And so like we're getting like spring 2.0 right now, and going through all of like the seasonal changing allergies. But it's like, goodness gracious, can you cut us a break? And the answer is no.
Right? I'm back doing yard work today on this beautiful 70-degree weather, looking like a 1950s father, waving at everybody walking by. I just feel so nostalgic, dressed in this plaid shirt with the glasses. But listen, enough of me rambling. We have a really interesting guest on today. I love having authors on because I'm so in admiration of anybody who can actually complete a book. I mean, it took me a long time to get through what I did, but this isn't about me. And
speaking about plugs, you just released a new book in conjunction with with contributions from a fan and also a dear friend of ours, John Poveromo.
That's right.
I believe you have. Oh, there it is, kids.
The Fly That Wouldn't Die, an adult coloring book based on a story that happened to me in the bathroom before a show, and someone was inspired to write a poem about it. Our friend Lulu Lounge,
yes, indeed,
wrote a poem.
So be sure to check out. Oh, go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I thought it was just ridiculously hilarious that you wrote a poem, so I took it another hilarious step further. I made a coloring book about it, which is absurd, but.
And you can get your copy by going to facebook.com/JasonandJustin, and you'll be able to click the link. That'll take you right to the Amazon page, so that way you can purchase your copy today. Now, of course, facebook.com is also where we disseminate all of our information. If you want to check out some of our other fun content that we do, head on over to twitch.tv/Hi, I'm Jason P. You can also head over to YouTube to check out some of our finished products just by searching "Hi, I'm Jason," and you can do that on all of the podcast platforms as well: Spotify, Audible. Hi, I'm Jason is everywhere, and we look forward to bringing our stories to you. And today, like we were just saying, we have an author on. Also, this is where normally we do things that are humor related and based in humor. I'm sure that Neil, has dealt with humor and throughout his journey. But this is a very serious a very serious topic that we're talking about today. We're talking about addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a joke. However, I was talking to him in the past, and seeing as he's mishpucha with me, he's also a member of the tribe. He's Jewish.
Right.
We do deal with things through humor better than anybody. I got to tell you. So I'm sure we definitely have that in common. But addiction is definitely not a joke, no matter what you're addicted to. He's the author of Unmasked, Conquering Sexual Sin and Walking in Victory. Please give a nice welcome to Neil Getzlow.
Hey guys.
Neil, sorry. Neil, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really have to give you a lot of credit for accomplishing this book.
Yeah, thanks. It came about, believe me, can't imagine, 18 months ago at this time thinking I'd be here talking to you about a book that I had just written, especially about all the interesting details that I have in that book about my journey. Never would have imagined I got here, but here we are.
From what I understand, it's an incredibly honest portrayal.
It's brutally honest. I get that question a lot, which is why are you sharing the worst parts of your life or maybe of anybody's life with the world? And it's a great question. But all I can say is I feel like I need to share what I went through and how I was able to overcome these addictions, these lifelong addictions that I've had, to show that there is hope and that there is a way out. And yes, thank you for popping up my website. There's the book there where you can purchase it. You can learn more about me on my website, neilgetzlow.com. And if you didn't realize it yet, Jesus is front and center in my story. So as a Jew, that makes it another interesting onion layer that we can peel back, Jason.
I like it. I think, you're being honest for a reason, because you're not going to get through to anybody unless you tell the whole story.
Well, you have to,
exactly.
Right? You have to tell. And again, my story involves God, which, I feel compelled to share about. And again, I was, I say that I grew up Jewish in a Jewish neighborhood in St. Louis. All my friends are Jewish. They all got bar mitzvah. I did not get bar mitzvah. So I had no real connection to the religious side of Judaism. I just knew we were good for the food and the jokes. So I enjoyed the cultural aspect of being Jewish, but that was about it. And in fact, by the time I became an adult, I'd say I was probably, if anything, I was an atheist. I just believed here we are, we do our thing, we die, and that's it. And a cynical atheist at that. So for me to be able to now talk about my faith and what it's done for me, it's pretty. I just credit God. It's pretty amazing what's been able to happen in my life.
And you have a really understanding wife, from what we gather.
She's the key to this story. I had to unpack we were married for 9 years. For about half of that time, I was addicted to sex with other women. I was specifically paying prostitutes and having sex with them, and I had to admit that all to my wife. And I'll say, and I had some pretty good motivation. God really, I like to say, God hit me in the head with a hammer about 3 different times to get my attention on this journey. But what started off as a porn addiction, and we can get into kind of how we got there. But what started as a porn addiction then led to, it was sort of like a gateway drug. And that led me to doing more dangerous things. Soon it graduated to strip clubs and things like that. And soon that wasn't enough. Ultimately, it led me again to seeking out women. which led me to the hammer hit number one. That led me to a hotel room in Chicago in February of 2020. And I was on a business trip, set up a meeting at this woman's hotel in downtown Chicago, went to visit her. As I was getting ready to leave, her partner comes out of the other room, and he is dressed in drag, and he looks like a offensive lineman from the Chicago Bears. Seriously, he's like 6'5", 300 pounds. And if that's not enough, he's got a cell phone in his hand, and he shows it to me, and it has my wife's social media information and her contact information on it. And he says, "You're going to have to pay us more money, or we're going to call your wife." And, so at that point, you just kind of go into the adrenaline kicks in.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, I don't want to die in a hotel room and that's the call that my wife gets on how I died. Well, he was visiting a prostitute and they slashed his throat because he wouldn't pay him any more money. Not a great phone call for your wife to get. So about $900 later, I did manage to get out of the room. But as I'm walking down the hall, I hear the door open up behind me as I'm heading to the elevator, and they're yelling back at me, "Hey, you're going to need to pay us more money or we're going to call your wife." Well, at that point, elevator doors open. I jump in. I'm out of there. And I move along with my day. I have all these business meetings set up, go to them. Nobody knows that I was just blackmailed by a prostitute. And that's why the book is titled Unmasked, because I had this mask on for most of my life that I was stuffing everything behind, hiding all of these dark secrets that I had so nobody could see. Nobody knew anything. And
you didn't give in.
What's that?
You escaped.
I did. I did escape. Now there was a confluence of events that happened for this to allow me to escape. I do say one of them also happens to be COVID-19, because basically, in my mind, God took away everything that I love to do and said, "You're gonna have to figure this out. I'm taking away the sex, the booze, the drugs, the women, all of it. You're locked down with your wife. Now, what are you going to do to turn your life around?" So going back to kind of what happened from the Chicago couple, I make it back home to Kansas City. They hadn't called yet, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm in pretty good shape here. They're not going to call. I escaped the worst. I can continue on with my secret life. I'm out $900, fine. But then 3 days later, Sunday night, March 1st, 2020, exactly 9:30 p.m., my phone starts blowing up with text messages from this couple. And they say, "Hey, you've got 15 minutes to pay us more money or we're going to call Amy." And I'm thinking I'm calling their bluff. There's no way they're going to call, because once they call, they know they're not going to get any more money from me. So what's the point? I figured they just wouldn't hear from me and they'd move on. Very naive, because exactly 15 minutes later, I hear the phone up in my wife's room ring, and I can hear her answer, and I hear the murmur of a conversation, and then she comes down the stairs and the steps are getting louder and louder and louder, and finally she just burst into my office and says, "Are you cheating on me? What's going on?" And so that was the first time that God hit me in the head with a 2x4. And I did everything like that a good addict would do at the time. I lied. I said, "This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I've never done it before. I'll never do it again. I'll do anything to save our marriage." And, Amy's like, okay, I think she reluctantly believed me. I know she had her doubts, and she would later say she had a gut feeling over these many years that something just wasn't adding up in my life. So fast forward to 6 weeks later. This is mid-April. This is hit number 2 from God. Keep in mind, my wife and I, the first encounter happened in March. 2 weeks later, the pandemic hits. So my wife stopped working, and then my business kind of slowed down. So we're now locked down together at home trying to deal with this. Well, in the middle of the pandemic, 6 weeks later, my addiction flares up, and I set out to make an appointment with someone I had arrangement with in Kansas City. And normally when I leave my house, like, my laptop has all my information, all my secrets on it. and I make sure that thing is locked down tight. At the time, Amy didn't have my passwords or anything. So this is like, I never leave the house without knowing that thing is locked. So I set this appointment and I leave, and not 10 minutes later, because it was Amy's home, 10 minutes later, my phone starts blowing up and it's Amy, and she's taking screenshots of my laptop, texting them to me saying, excuse me, what is going on here? And I'm just thinking, how in the heck did I leave? I swear this computer was locked. Obviously it wasn't. And so that was hit number 2. Obviously I didn't make it to that appointment, turned around, the whole time thinking, well, now what am I going to say to get out of this? Make it home. And look, to be honest, I don't remember what my story was when I got home to Amy. All I know was that she didn't buy it. She was like, there's no way I'm believing whatever you're telling me about this. So she told me before we went to bed that night, if you want to save this marriage, you need to ask God for help. That's the only thing that's going to save our marriage. So I'll kind of take a pause here before the third and final hit to say, like I said, Amy and I got married 9 years ago. Before that, neither of us were believers. So we were out living the good life and drinking and doing all kinds of fun stuff and just enjoying the world. 3 months after we got married, Amy told me that she is now a follower of Jesus. So imagine my reaction to my wife who we just got married is now telling me, she's telling her Jewish atheist husband, I'm a follower of Jesus. Just like, well, that would have been, kind of like the Adam Sandler line, that would have been good information to know 3 months ago. So anyways, so that's kind of why she brought up God to me, and she'd been working on me for 8 solid years of trying to get me to believe, which I, at this point, never thought would ever happen. And so finally, a third and final hit. So we go to bed that night. The next morning I wake up, Amy's already gone. She had left the house. She didn't tell me where she had went. And I was like, well, this is a good time to pray because I don't know what else to do. Because I asked God, I said, help me. Like, I'm trapped in these addictions. I can't break free. Please give me a sign, something that there is hope and help out there. And as soon as I finished that prayer, the garage door pops up, and it was Amy. And like I said, Amy's the key to this whole story. So she comes in, and I tell her, hey, look, I prayed, I want to work on this marriage. I don't want to lose you. She reluctantly agreed to keep working on things. And then a couple hours later, we're sitting on the couch, and she gets a random message from some guy we don't know that says, all it said was, do you know Anil Getzlow? Well, that's all I needed to hear, because whatever reason, I felt absolutely compelled to expose everything. I needed to confess everything to Amy right then, right there. Because what I later found out was that guy that was messaging Amy through Facebook, he was the ex-boyfriend of another woman that I had an arrangement with, who found out and was starting to text the receipts to Amy about all of our interactions. So at this point, I'm like, I give up. Like, you win, God. I'm telling Amy everything. And that's what I did. I sat her down and told her about all of my horrible, horrible actions over the past 5 years. Excuse me. And then the addiction to pornography that started it all. And what happened next, changed my life. She looked up at me and she said, Neil, she's like, Jesus forgave me for my sins. How can I not forgive you for yours? I forgive you. And, I look back on it now, and again, remember, this is coming from a Jewish atheist, but you can't convince me that wasn't Jesus talking to me, using Amy to talk to me. And that when she said those words to me, the addictions, they vanished. And I have not looked at porn since that day. It's April 14th, 2020. Haven't looked at porn, haven't been tempted to go out and visit a prostitute. None of that. My life is completely 180 turned around from where it was about 18 months ago. And I give all the credit to God for doing it.
Your wife is an amazing human being. I got to tell you.
Can you believe that? Like, who does that? And like, it's amazing.
I mean, that's also, I mean, a testament to, I think, what real faith is. Also,
Yes.
because I've spent, my 20-year career in music entertainment actually started in music ministry, and I still am work in music ministry to this day. I'm an ordained reverend, and to understand that, that God, is always around, that speaks through us. God is in us, with us, your creator. If you believe in Jesus, if you believe in something bigger than yourself, whatever you are on your faith journey, but it's the faith journey and the fact that your wife was there as a testament that here I believe in someone who forgave me of all of my sins at my baptism or at his crucifixion. And
Yeah.
and so who am I? There's the parable of, oh gosh, of course now I'm forgetting it, like a good reverend, because I don't have my notes in front of me. But about the, do I forgive my brother 7 times? No, you forgive him 70 times, 700 times.
7 times 70, I think,
Yes.
was his response. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's so, yeah, I mean, and that's absolutely what Amy followed. And that is a testament to her faith. And I'm just so blessed that she had it, because she gave me that gift. And like I said, that sort of helped me break free from not only the sins of addiction of pornography and sex, but, I abused is a strong word, but I probably severely mishandled the use of alcohol and marijuana at the same time. And so I just turned away from all that. Now I know it's not, and I say this knowing that I understand that it's not easy, because I struggled with it for decades myself, trying to break free from this stuff and could never do it. For me, it took God breaking me free from that cycle. For others, I know that the path is probably going to be a lot more difficult. But there are some things in addition to my faith that I did that really helped sort of accelerate the transformation that I went through.
Sometimes you need that slap in the face. I mean, I can't help but think, like, if you weren't blackmailed, if that didn't happen, would it still be going on? I mean, do you feel relieved that, like, it happened and it's done, and you were like a step closer to just being open, honest about yourself?
I mean, there's a lot of those questions you could ask. If I'm not blackmailed, does this secret come out? Maybe, maybe not. If COVID-19 doesn't happen, am I still taking the same actions? Maybe, maybe not. Because one of the things that COVID took away from me was I used to go out with my friends all the time and leave Amy home alone. That's how I coped with my anxiety and coped with what I blamed Amy for being a born again Christian, and I lashed out at her for that. I consider it mental abuse now when I look back on it. But I'd leave her home alone, go out to watch every sporting event pretty much that I could go watch with my friends and get totally, inebriated and then drive home, no less. That all went away. So if I didn't have, if that escape hatch was still there, would that, I think I'd still be in it. And again, if Amy didn't forgive me, if she, looked at me and said, "I'm done with you," which she had every right to do, I don't think I'd be here today. I think I would have absolutely been continuing down that path and taken more and more risks until finally, game over.
And I think it was a good slap in the face. And I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Of course. Yeah, for sure.
You're definitely not alone in that. I have so many friends who are married with families who tell me, like, who actually confess they've got at least just porn addictions, just say, I can't help it. When I get stressed, when I get anxious, I watch porn.
Yeah.
Escape. I mean, it is about moderation on occasion, but some people, when you have an addictive personality, you can't control that.
Yeah, I mean, I used it to medicate myself, essentially, and this actually, and I'll say, but porn changes your brain, as I was doing research for this book and just learning more about the addiction that I had, porn is just, in my opinion now, porn is not good. And, for me, my addiction to pornography started at the age of 9. I was first exposed in what was called, the neighborhood kids called the Playboy Forest. There's a wooded area behind my elementary school. We'd ride our bikes over there, and there's like this little hollowed out area, and ripped up bits of Playboy magazines were strewn all around there. So you'd get a glimpse of, various body parts. But that was my first exposure to it. And, I'm growing up, this is in the early 80s. And so it's one of those things, if you had to be there to understand, but anytime you went over to a friend's house, it's, where's your dad's porn stash? It was always hidden in some drawer.
In all due respect, if you're going to find body parts in the woods, that's the kind of body parts you want to find.
Point taken. Yes.
Magazine style.
Magazine style.
I'm just picturing the next coloring book, Jason. It's just porn forest.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to send you down that path. But then my parents got divorced, and I moved in with my mom. I became a typical 80s latchkey kid. There were no other kids around, so I'd go home, go to school, come home. I'd be alone all the time. Then my mom had to start working to support herself, and she was out all the time. So in either side of my mom's bed on these two nightstands, stacks of Playboy magazines and Penthouse magazines. So what do I do with my time? That's how I filled up this hole in my heart that I had, this being alone and feeling unloved. I medicated myself with porn starting, 11 years old.
And that's not uncommon at all. And I hope you don't feel awkward for having grown up like that, because it's so. It's all about how you deal with it and how you cope with it, but.
For sure. I don't know if I feel awkward, but I do look back on it now. I think, well, there's just a lot of factors in play. I will say, again, I'm giving 100% of the credit to God and to Jesus for turning my life around. I will stress that completely. But another very important step that I took to defeat this was finding a professional counselor to talk to. That is so important and so critical, not only just for myself individually, but together with Amy, talking through this. And one of the things that I learned, the very first conversation I had with my counselor, he asked me, Neil, what's the first thing you had to learn how to do when you were a child? Which I thought, wow, that's a really good question. Very interesting question. Never thought about it before. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? The first thing I had to learn how to do was to be alone. And that's where I was in this, what he calls the shame cycle, where I'd say, I'm alone. Nobody loves me. Here's this pornography. I'm going to look at this and make myself feel better. I'm looking at it. I'm feeling better. Then I'm done. Then I feel this incredible amount of shame and guilt. And then I go to, well, this is why I'm alone. This is why nobody loves me. And then the cycle would just continue. And that cycle would continue. Sometimes it would fade away, but it would always come back. And it would always just continue to be a circle that I couldn't find a way to break free.
Yeah, that's I was going to say that's so much with things of self-medication or addiction, and that's really what it usually goes back to, is some sort of miscommunication about either your own self-worth or the worth of a relationship that you're in. And so that kind of sends you on that self-medicating, as your doctor said, was a shame spiral or shame cycle.
Shame cycle, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but it's like I said, it's kind of crazy to think about it now and to stand here and and the thing is, and I know that you typically have a fun show, and so appreciate letting us get a little bit serious here tonight. But my wife and I have gotten to the point now where we've rebuilt our marriage completely. Like when I confess to her, I write about it in the book. Like, I threw up all over the floor of our marriage because that's what felt like it was happening. Like, I just couldn't, I couldn't control what I was about to say. It just felt like it was coming out, like I was getting ready to puke all over, which I did. vomited all over. We had to rebuild our marriage, which we have spent a lot of time, and there's been a lot of hard conversations, a lot of accountability that I had to take for my actions. Just because she forgave me does not mean that it absolved me from any responsibility or any accountability for what I did. I fully own that, for sure. But we have gotten to the point now where we can lightly start to joke about it, and get kind of feel like we've grown now. We're kind of, I don't think we'll ever be completely, totally normal, but we're getting
Nobody
to the point
really
where, yeah, right. But we are getting to the point where I look back like, I can't believe you did that kind of thing, and we can kind of laugh about it, which is nice.
I incredible amount of respect for you and your wife for just your honest, especially your wife, for being so tolerant and patient, and almost educational in a way. The way she helped guide you through this, like I almost wish she could be here. I'd love to meet her.
Well, we should bring her back. I'll have you talk to her. She'd love to talk to you.
Actually, I was even thinking that the moment when you said that it was April, that it's been a year since you've kind of pushed porn and all of that away. We should set up a 1-year anniversary for you where we have you back on, continue to talk about the book with your wife, and if we can work that out sometime in April, we'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, let's do it. That'd be good. Where we've also talked about now writing the first book. For me, I wrote it like in 4 months and got it all done, which
flowed.
It just came out like it was just easy for me. I told Amy, I was like, get ready, because the next book that I want to write is this story from her point of view, though, because I want people to see it from her eyes, because I just think her story is much more impactful, I think, than mine sometimes. And I know she struggles with that, because sometimes she just thinks, why does anyone care what I think? I didn't do anything special, but she did. And I know she's got some friends that look at her like I think maybe have walked away from her because she stayed with me, which is unfortunate, but I understand why people would think that.
You have an amazingly loyal wife, and you guys are just so strong to overcome this. And I got to tell you, she's not alone. The reason I started this podcast, I had the same mindset as her, as why would anyone care what I think? That's why it's called Hi, I'm Jason. Now they know who I am, at least. But,
yeah. Right.
And real quick, we have a couple comments from, thank you for tuning in, Andrew. And Polly Barnes wrote, Neil, I'm so glad you have turned your life around. God is great.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. God is great. And I don't know how to express just how different my life is today than it was, back before the pandemic started. Like, again, I'd spend all of my time either out with my friends, drinking, watching sports, or watching porn, or going to visit prostitutes. Like, literally, that was my life.
I would say that's the life, but yeah, you've shown the reality of that.
It's the life, but it's literally the highway to hell. And today I can say I still watch sports, but not nearly as much as I did. Maybe I'll watch snippets of a game here and there, but I'm not sitting through an entire NFL game anymore like I would do for 6 hours every Sunday. Instead, I'm going to church. I'm watching online sermons on a Sunday afternoon with my wife, which is just mind blowing. But I think it's true. God, when God touches you, he gives you a new heart, and he gives you new desires and new things that you want to do. All those old things I want to do, I miss. There are some friends that I don't see anymore, and I miss that relationship, but I don't miss the things that we did. I just don't. And I went through and read the entire Bible in 6 months last year, after I got saved. And we're almost through the second read through in 2021. And Jason, you know how big this is, because, obviously as a Jew, we're not supposed to go past the Old Testament. And so I got to that point. I'm like, what should I do here? Should I keep going? And of course I kept going. And,
you still have the Jewish personality, though.
I do. I can't lose that.
No.
No, that was given. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
No, that was given to you from your grandfather and your grandfather's father and your grandfather's father.
Hey, it goes all the way
Grandmother,
back.
grandmother.
Goes all the way back to Abraham.
Yeah.
Wonder if they had the same sense of humor back then.
You'd almost have to.
Yeah,
I don't
right?
think that the jokes land as well in ancient Hebrew, though. I mean, I'm just saying. That's
Maybe
my
not.
understanding.
Maybe not.
I mean, I was a cantorial soloist for about 2 years at a Reform synagogue in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, and so I guess that makes me Jewish.
Oh, there it is.
Yes,
Perfect.
That's why we can't
Again,
have nice things.
not the comic. Okay, there it is.
Perfect.
And just if you're tuning in now, I just want to reiterate we're talking to Neil Getzlow. You want to show the book, Justin?
It's up on the screen here. Let's see, Bob. I don't know if you're around in the back. There it is. So there we are. We're on neilgetzlow.com, and you can actually order the book right on the website.
And I will say, if you order the book through my website, not only will I sign it for you, but we are donating $5 for every book sold to Run to Stop It. That's an organization based in Kansas City that is fighting against sex trafficking, and they help fund a lot of organizations, because I think that's one of the hardest things that for me to process a little bit, is that what I've learned since I started going to church and talking to other people is that a lot of times in prostitution, these women are victims. They're sex trafficked. They're not there voluntarily. Now, there may be people that are voluntarily doing it. All the people that I met, they claim that, but how do I know that for sure? I don't. The numbers and the studies, the research doesn't vet it out. I just don't know who was there, on their own terms, and who was there because there's someone behind them, a boyfriend, pimp, whatever, that is forcing them to do this and collecting the money on the other side. And I think that's the part that hurts. And also the fact that, were they all over 18?
Yeah.
Again, they all said they were, but you don't know. That's the hard part. And I think the same thing is true for pornography too. A lot of times people are forced into it, and they're trapped. And that's unfortunate. Obviously, that's why I've become very passionate about this organization, Run to Stop It, and trying to fight against that. So sorry for bringing this for a little bit of serious there for a second.
No. I mean, again, this is such an important thing. I think that a lot of people, again, as we understand, or we think that we understand what addiction is, and we think that we understand what pornography is, and we think that sometimes they're separate. We think that sexuality is separate from something that could be addictive, and something that could be hurtful, and something that could be a detriment to people that we think are willing participants. But and here, I mean, not only are we learning your journey and your journey through coming out the other side, seeing some of the rock bottoms that you hit, and then also seeing that you picked a good one, because not only is it I forgive you, but it's not I'm going to forgive you and still see you as that old man that you were. I am going to forgive you, and I'm going to walk with you on this journey. So we get to hear about your amazing wife. We get to hear about this kind of almost prodigal son moment for you, where you've come back, and you now want to, you will be given the clean robes, and we will find the fatty calf, and we will sacrifice it so that we can have a feast and celebrate this goodness. And also in all of this, a faith journey where, you can't help but see that there is something larger than yourself at work here.
I mean, one of the favorite lines that I came across in the Bible, which there's too many to count, but one of my favorite stories is where Jesus is talking about he's not going to visit the wealthy and the doctors and the lawyers of the world. He's hanging out with the sinners, the prostitutes, basically the degenerates of the world. That's who he's going to hang out with, and that's who he's trying to help save. And I was right there. And yeah, despite the fact that I turned away from God my entire life, I'm confident that he was definitely celebrating when I came back home finally. But I'll also say too that I like to say that cancel culture is a big thing right now, but I canceled my culture before it canceled me last year. And what I mean by that is that when you think about it, if you try to get your body in shape physically, what do? You stop eating junk food and you start eating salads and exercising. But I never thought, at least, how do I get my mind in better shape? And what did I have to do? I had to cut out the junk food that I was filling up my mind on, which was Netflix, and I canceled Netflix, cable TV, and I canceled cable TV, sports, and I canceled my sports packages, got rid of all that, all of the stuff in culture that was tempting me or that I was allowing to tempt me. And instead of that junk food, my junk food, now I was starting to fill up on what I considered the good stuff. Again, reading the Bible, going to church, listening to, faith-based shows and watching faith-based shows, that kind of thing.
Do you still have what you might call a guilty pleasure, though, that you're allowed to indulge in?
Gosh, yeah. Yes. I know there's got to be something out there, but we just stopped watching TV. Like the guilt, and I would say this is a guilty pleasure, but it's not like it was a horrible show. Like I used to watch The Office nonstop. But there's nothing. I mean, that's not a bad. That's not like the worst show in the world, of course. But I do, yeah. I mean, you can't it's everything. Like you said, everything in moderation. And but I just know that for me, my priority is on God and what He's done in my life, and that's what I'm focused on. Are there going to be times where I, do other things? Of course, but it shouldn't be all consuming like it was for me. That's the problem. That's the problem that I had, was that I loved everything that this world had to offer and didn't care anything about what God had to offer. I just had to flip that script.
You did it, and you made it happen. And you wrote this book, and hopefully that helps others from learning.
Oh, absolutely. And sharing your story, you help other people see theirs. And I think that'll happen for a lot of people. And again, I just flipped over to the website again, and I clicked the order book button, and you can buy Unmasked now. $5 for each book sold will be donated to Run to Stop It. And again, Run to Stop It is raising awareness and finances to support organizations involved in the global, I can read that word, abolition movement to end human sexual trafficking. So again, Unmasked, it's only $20, folks. And again, I say buy a copy for yourself, buy a copy for a friend to, just honestly,
not to be confused with Unmasked Ed.
Yeah, that's right.
The guy who runs around in a mask all the time.
But
I mean, it's a perfect stocking stuff for Christmas season. hey, honey, I got you this perfect book for you this holiday season to show you how much I care. But it's
another comment from Ann Rothney. Happy for you, Neil. Stay.
I appreciate that. I will say that's one of the more pleasant surprises not surprises, but just I was really worried about what my family was going to say when I told them not only about what I did, but I actually was more worried. I didn't think they'd care too much about all my exploits. I was more worried about what they'd say when I said, oh, by the way, I'm now a believer in Jesus. Again, I was more worried that they were going to turn away from me. And honestly, I just had this extreme sense of guilt, but they've been great. They've been highly supportive. One of the best friends who I grew up with, I've known since I was 10 years old, and we still text each other and talk almost every day, and Jewish. And he was the last person I told. And again, I was so petrified to tell him, because I just felt like, again, at times it feels like you're turning your back on your culture, but in reality, I wasn't. I think in my opinion, I was doing the most Jewish thing I could do, which was follow our Messiah. And but again, I told him, and he again just accepted me and it didn't change anything with our relationship. And that, to me, those have been the great things that I've appreciated. It was just that support and encouragement. But it hasn't been easy, and there have been, unfortunately, some relationships that have been completely severed. And I understand too. No one's doing it maliciously, but I think they see that I'm on a new path, and just want to help me stay on that path, I think.
You've got some great love in your life, though, and that's all that matters right now.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And the other word that keeps coming up, which I love, is the other thing that's at the heart of this was a rebuilding of relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the relationship with your wife, the relationship with your faith, the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And in all of that, and the thing is, and you've even just mentioned it, that relationships have ceased, but it's not malicious. It's an understanding that this is a new journey for myself,
right.
And that means for this relationship, it's a new journey as well. And if you will be with me on this journey, I will lovingly carry you with me. If not, I will still love you from afar. And that's I think it's a beautiful reason why you should get this book. It's a book about so much. That's the thing at the heart of it. It's a book that's so much. It's about faith. It's about addiction. It's about relationships. It's about resurgence, and it's about overcoming your most difficult stuff.
And I'll just say here real quick that that is one thing that my wife and I spent a lot of time. We had to spend a lot of time with is rebuilding our relationship. We would spend almost every night on our back deck. We order these boxes of cards like, who's your favorite superhero, Batman or Superman? Just all these random get to know you cards. We had to get all those and ask each other these questions again to relearn about each other and really connect.
That sounds like a lot of fun, though.
It is. It was awesome. And again, I have a relationship with her now that it's the relationship that I've always wanted to have with my wife. And it's a blessing. I just can't express enough how different it is, how awesome it is. And I will say, big thing too is build trust. And if there's anyone listening out there that is suffering from an addiction like this, building that trust is so key. Like I turned over the keys to everything to Amy. She's got the passwords to my accounts. She has this, she has unlimited access to my phone. And normally that would like totally freak me out in the past. And sometimes she'll want to see my phone and she'll start looking at it. And I get these old feelings again, like, oh my gosh, what's she going to find? And I remember, well, she's not going to find anything. So it's kind of nice. Like, have at it. Like you can look as much as you want, but
being honest is the best. It's so freeing.
It is freeing, absolutely freeing. And that's another thing that my counselor told me. He's like, I was keeping so many lies and secrets hidden underneath this mask that's all I had time to think about and focus on. And it probably prevented me from having any real meaningful conversations with Amy, because I was so worried about keeping my story straight over all these years. Without having to worry about that, it's just a different story. And also, I'd say we did put a location app on our phones, so she knows exactly where I'm at all the time. But again, it's a step that needed to happen to rebuild trust.
So again, we have a beautiful story here, again, about so much. So please make sure you go over to neilgetzlow.com to order his book, Unmasked, which is for sale right now. If you go to his website, just click at the top corner, order book, and you can order your copy today to be delivered to you for $19.99. And again, it's a beautiful story, Neil, and I look forward to getting my own copy and really getting to learn even more about you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think there's so many other layers that we could venture down again. But I'm just so appreciative of the fact that you gave me this opportunity to share my story with your audience.
It's our pleasure. Honestly, I'm honored that you're willing to come on and be honest and tell your story. That could also potentially help others, and I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I really thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you. And again, there is hope out there, folks. It is possible to break away from those addictions. So don't give up.
So and keep and folks listening and watching, make sure you keep your eye on Facebook.com/Jason and Justin, because we're gonna have Neil back sometime in April with his wife Amy to talk about their continued journey of communication and faith, and also the plans for book number 2. So we'll keep bugging you about that, Neil.
I appreciate the motivation.
Neil, thank you again. Justin, thank you, Ann and Polly and Andrew, everybody listening and commenting. I really appreciate all of it.
A big thank you also to Bobby of Strong Island Entertainment Network, our producer. Thank you so much again for all of your hard work that you do to make the Hi, I'm Jason podcast happen.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.